Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal button for anybody that wants to share some love. Every little bit is appreciated. The StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel as well. We've got John with us. How you doing tonight, John?
We're doing good, Keith.
Good, good. Always good to hear that. We're
just reading a book about Iowa.
Oh yeah,
About the hog industry and the Hansen family. Pretty good.
Yep. Big in the hog industry. That's one of the major events that happened in the 70s when these industrial farmers took over. And they also took over the hog lots, the cattle lots, the feed lots, all of those, and just we have enormous preparation lots now for the slaughter industry. It's all amazing how they incorporate everything into our life in every aspect by taking over it, and it's all done by the financial industry. You know, that was that mortgage shit, farm mortgage shit in the 70s that happened. Yep, barons. They are. So tonight we're going to talk about beating cancer. As most people know, I've got lung cancer. Still not gone yet. Still there. Still going through immunotherapies and doing my regular regime of various different things. And one of the things we've been talking about lately is cell salts, if you've seen the two previous videos about cell salts. Now, one of the things that I mentioned in my regime of this cancer remedy stuff is fenbendazole and ivermectin. Now, most of us know that that's a dog dewormer that you can get through veterinarians. And before we go any further, I do want to make sure that everybody understands the banner below that says fair use. All clips are used for fair use, commentary, criticism, and educational purposes. See Zada versus Klein equals 3 LLC versus Dukin Media Inc. So everything we're doing here is a matter of research. Like I tell people, don't believe me, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe your government, and for crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. So we're doing some research here so we can express our research so others can enforce their right to know. In that, as we continue on with the discussion, fenbendazole is just one form of a group of medicines in a dazole category. That's why we're talking about dazole, antihelminthic, and salts. So we're going to get started with the fenbendazole is what we've mentioned before. And this guy here that we're going to review a video of talks about mendazole. Now, mendazole has been discontinued, and now they use albendazole. So we're going to take a look at this stuff, see what the differences are, and see if we can discern for ourselves what is true and accurate.
Hello everyone. Right, okay. We do this video on how to beat cancer using a drug called mendazole. Okay, mendazole is a drug used for kids when they get worms. So 12 years ago, diagnosed with osteosarcoma, it's a bone cancer in the right hip. I was limping in work, I was in a lot of pain. My friend made me go home from London, go and sort myself out. Went to the doctors, went to hospital, got diagnosed with cancer in the right hip. I had a tumour the size of a small orange, he said, in my right hip, in the bulging. Okay, so he said you need 7 months of chemotherapy, and we're going to give you.
So basically, he went through and found out he had cancer on his left hip or something, and it was a bulging, cancerous tumor.
A hip and partial transplant. Cut the tumour out, give you a hip and partial pelvis transplant. So that's 3.5 months of chemotherapy.
And it was in the hip area, and they're talking about removing part of the hip and the pelvis to get it out.
Therapy in Christie's in Manchester. Halfway through the 7 months, they had an operation. They cut out my hip, pelvis, cut out the cancer, cut out the tumour. Told me that the cancer was still spreading and that the chemotherapy wasn't working. And now it was up to me whether I wanted to finish off the course of chemo or not, because it wasn't working. But it might help if I carried on. So I thought, well, I'm halfway through it.
So at the beginning, he went through chemo and radiation, and it wasn't doing any good. He's halfway through when he finds out it's not doing any good. So he's going to do some figuring here.
I'm about to finish it off. So I finished off 7 months chemo on Christie's in Manchester. Made me very ill. Fucking hell. I lost so much weight. Went down to 10 stone. Lost all my hair.
10 stone's about 140 pounds. That's about what I weigh now. And I went down to 105 pounds. This guy, imagine he's probably a little bit bigger, was probably around 200 pounds as an average weight, and probably did the same thing. Lost, close 60 pounds. Made him probably pretty thin.
P.I.G.S.C.U.N.T.S, eyebrows, you name it, I lost him. So I finished off 7 months of chemo, come home, went home, tried my best, got on with my life. Leg was in a lot of pain, but went back to work. After 6 months, you go for a 6-month checkup, see how the cancer's going, see if it's spreading. I went back, had CT scans, and they found tumours in my right lung. I think it was 5 tumours in my right lung. Secondary tumours from the bone cancer, from the osteosarcoma. The doctor told me, Dr. Lee told me, he's prepared to give me another 6 months of chemotherapy. Now I told.
So he found out his cancer is spreading, and the doctor was prepared to give him another 6 months of chemotherapy to try to help him out.
I told Dr. Lee when I was in Christie's, helping through the chemotherapy, I'll never go and have it again, ever. If it can't come back, I wasn't going to have the chemotherapy again. So he said, he was with the Macmillan nurse, and he says, right, Shane, we can give you 6 months of chemotherapy. I said to the doctor, I don't want the chemotherapy. And he says, I knew you'd say that, Shane. That's right, I've got the Macmillan nurse here. And I told her you were going to refuse chemotherapy. And I said, right, okay. So what happens now to him? And he says, right, it'll take 12 months to spread through your body and get to your brain. Can't remember what order he said, kidneys, lung, liver, kidneys, whatever.
So right now it's spread into his lungs, and he's saying it's going to take about another 12 months, and it'll spread into all those other organs and finally hit the brain.
And it gets to your brain, and once it goes to your brain, you won't be compass mentis, and it'll take 12 months to get there. So if you don't go and have the chemotherapy, you need to go home, you need to speak to your family, your loved ones, explain to them what's happening, and that you refuse the chemotherapy. Because when you are ill, Shane, he said, and you're at the end of life, they'll try and make us give you chemotherapy, and it's too late, and they'll blame us for not wanting to give you chemotherapy, and it is too late. So this is what if you don't want the chemotherapy, go home and explain it to your family. So I told him, okay, I'll go home and do that. Now, let me go.
And that is good advice. If you're going to go against this medical industry and you have loved ones that basically already depend on this system to help you out, and you decide to go against the grain, you have to give them good information of what's going on so they don't turn around and blame somebody else for your decisions. This is why that living will and do not resuscitate clauses and shit like that are so important in their legal system.
Let me take a step back. I'd read about this dazole while I came out of hospital after 7 months. I've been researching cancer cures, and I've read about dazole getting used in mice in America and having good results. No humans are taking them with just animal trials.
So he's not talking about fenbendazole, but mendabenzole. Same compound element in a slightly different form.
So research as much as I can about the drug.
And again, like I said, when we look at these synthetic forms, they're merely mimicking nature. So there's a natural form, and that's part of what we're going to find out. Like I said before, you get your natural cell salts through your vegetables and fruits and stuff too. So they all come in natural forms somewhere. Nature already provides immunity.
I think most supplements, Keith, we just we don't really digest them. They just go through us, you know.
Right, they're synthetic and they don't have the natural crystalline forms. That's why it's important when we looked up those cell salts that if you're going to get these vitamin supplements and stuff, make sure you're getting the crystalline form. Those other ones will do you not much good at all, if any.
I covered as much knowledge as I could, and then 4 weeks later I got diagnosed with cancer. So, well, when he told me he thinks that I've got 5 tumours in my lungs, I'm going to do a biopsy, I went and bought the drugs straight away. I didn't wait for the biopsy. I went and bought them straight away from the chemist to get them in any chemist in Great Britain. So I bought those and I started taking them straight away. Had the biopsy. 4 weeks it took. I got the results in 4 weeks. Yeah, you've got 5 tumours in your lungs, whatever. So I've been taking these drugs for 4 weeks already. So I said to the doctor when he told me to go home and die, basically, I said, can I come back in 6 months and you can give me a CT scan and do what you've got to do and see how bad it is? And he said, no, just go home and die, basically. And I said, no, let me come back. I want to see how bad it's got. So Dr. Lee agreed. He said, come back in 6 months, Shane. So anyway, 6 months went by. I went back to work. took these drugs every day. I took Smithline, I took 400 ml Smithline a day, and I took 3 100 ml dazole. And I took 50 grams of L-glutamine in the morning, 50 grams of L-glutamine at night in milk, which is an amino acid to build the white cells up.
So he's mentioning a couple other supplements that he's taking along with this. But the main thing here we're concentrating on is this dazole thing and the antihelminthic and salts. Those are the things that we can get naturally.
So where was I? So I went back after 6 months, got quite healthy in that 6 months, went back for a checkup in 6 months. And where I'm going there, I'm expecting it to have spread by now, but hoping it hasn't. So I went back at 6 months. He does another CT scan, MRI scan, sits me down, tells me that the tumours have stayed the same size and there's no growth.
Yes, very cheap. And like I said, they no longer use mebendazole, but now they use albendazole. We'll discuss that.
They haven't grown. The tumours are still there, which is very pleasing. Believe me, I was happy with that. So I said, "Can I come back then? What happens now? Can I come back in 6 months' time for another checkup?" And he says, "Not really, Shane. We can only give you so many scans because they cause cancer." And I'm like, "Well, I've got cancer. It doesn't really matter, does it?" And he says, "Come back in 6 months for a chest X-ray." So okay. So I went back 6 months, 12 months after, six months late from the MRI scan. Just 12 months. I've gone back. He's done a chest X-ray. He's seen nothing. He said,
"Did a chest X-ray and sees nothing." Did a chest X-ray and sees nothing.
"There's nothing. I can't see nothing on your chest." And I said, "Well, I didn't think you would, Doc, because if it was on my chest, I'd be coughing. You know, so I didn't think you would because I feel healthy." He says, "Okay." So can I come back for in 6 months' time for MRI scan, see how far it's spread? And he goes, "Yeah, Shane, come back in 6 months' time." So I won't come. 6 months went by. I went back to work. Didn't feel ill. Felt healthy. Didn't feel like I had cancer. Just in work. So I went back. 18 months later, he's done an MRI scan. Walks in. He's got no Macmillan nurse with him. He's on his own. As soon as he walks in, I said to him, "Good news, is it, Doc?" And he says, "How do you know?" And I says, "Well, where's the Macmillan nurse? You've always got the Macmillan nurse with you because I'm dying and you're not got with her." And he says, "All right, Shane, didn't think I'd say this to you, but your tumours have gone. I can't see your tumours in your lungs."
Your tumors are gone. Your tumors are gone.
I said, "Oh, brilliant news. What happens next? What happens now? I'll come back and say."
So we see this isn't a matter of a medical study except by this man himself. He did his own medical study. He took his health in his own hands and had faith somewhere that something natural would help him better than, or something more natural would help him better than the chemo and radiation.
6 months' time. And he goes, "Okay, Shane, come back in 6 months' time." Went back 6 months' time, had a chest X-ray. Seen nothing on my chest again. I said, "I didn't think you would. I'll come back in another 6 months' time for an MRI scan." So he says, "Yeah, okay, come back in another 6 months for a checkup." So I went back again.
So now we're here at about 2 years, 2.5 years after this first diagnosis.
And now it's getting on for 3 years now. And so this time I'm getting a bit pissed off. Why hasn't this doctor asked me? He's telling me the cancer's gone, and he's not asked me what I'm taking. I'm supposed to be dead by now.
See, he has no curiosity. That goes against the grain of these physicians to worry about something that's curing somebody or seems to be helping them recover their health. We'll try to evade using that term cure, but essentially that's kind of like what it is. So
You can't
they
say
have,
there's a cure for cancer.
right? Yeah, that's what they're saying. But you know, the studies show that it might have an effect on cancer. So basically, they're seeing it as a possible path to a cure for cancer, because that's their intent in studying this stuff, is to placate that they're looking for a cure. When the cure is already there, it's a matter of not so much a cure, but a preventative remedy in nature if you just learn how it works. But otherwise, they're all about the money of the pharmaceuticals.
So I got my girlfriend to film it. I said, "Today, when we go in and see a doctor and he tells me the cancer's gone, and if he doesn't ask me why, doesn't ask me what drugs I'm taking, I'm going to say to him, why haven't you asked me what drugs I'm taking? Because you told me I'm dead by now." So we went in, She's filmed him. Didn't tell him I was filming him. Might be a bit suspect that. But it's my prerogative. He works for me. He's my doctor. But I wanted proof that my story's true. That, you know, it's a at the time when it's happening, it's all a bit strange. But so I wanted proof. I wanted to have proof for what he's saying to me, doctor. So anyway, filmed him. Went in, sit down with it. He comes in, he sits down and says to me, "Right, Shane, still no cancer. You're out of the woods now. Cancer doesn't come back from nowhere once it's gone. It's gone. You've got the same chance as everyone else now is getting cancer." So when he finished telling me all this, I said to him, "Okay."
So he said, now that the cancer's gone, you basically got the same chance of getting cancer as anybody else. So basically saying he's cured. The remedy has been achieved. He doesn't know how, but remedy has been achieved.
"Hey, doctor, why haven't you asked me what drugs I'm taking?" He says, "What do you mean, Shane?" I said, "Well, you told me I'll be dead in 12 months. 3 years ago. And now I'm sat here."
And I want to take one more minute to remind everybody again about the banner on the bottom. Fair use. All clips are used for fair use commentary, criticism, and educational purposes. That's why we're doing our specific research and going beyond the material presented here in this video. And we're going to review other sources. And you'll see they come from the National Institute on Health and things like that.
And you tell me the cancer's gone and I'm out of the woods. Why haven't you asked me what drugs I'm taking? And he says, "What are you taking, Shane?" Straight away. And I went, "Okay." So I told him which drugs I was taking, explained the drugs to him. He turned around and he went on Wikipedia, typed in the drugs, and he read about the drugs. It took him 10 minutes. I sat next to him on the desk. Watched him read it. I read it with him, read the Wikipedia with him, what it says about the drugs. When he finished reading, he turns around to me and he says, "Shane, you're not out of the woods yet." I went, "You just told me I'm out of the woods. Cancer's gone, I'm out of the woods." And he goes, "Well," he said, "I know both of these drugs, Shane." And he says, "And they look, I didn't know they get used for cancer. But I know what the drugs are used for normally, but I didn't know they're getting repurposed for cancer." He said, "But I've got to tell you."
Didn't know that they had been repurposed for cancer. So they're admitting that there's a repurpose or another purpose and that they're looking into it and it might seem to be valid.
He said, "You're not out of the woods yet." And I says, "Well, why you change your mind? What's happened?" And he says, "You've got to understand, Shane, I can't tell you these drugs will work for you. I can't tell you cured your cancer with these drugs." He says, "But my advice to you, if you believe these drugs have helped you, carry on taking them, Shane." Set me back a bit. That I was like, how do you take that? So anyway, I left the doctors, went home that night, thought about it, sat there thinking about it.
I think likely those doctors have taken some kind of oath that says they can't support or advertise something outside of their medical industry. That would kind of like be trading with the enemy, in a sense. Kind of like a non-disclosure.
So I went back online. It's been 4 years now since I got diagnosed with cancer, and I've been through all the treatment and what have you. So I researched dazole, cancer, and trials come up, human trials, that are getting started all over the world. So they've got
Dazole, human trials all over the world. So again, there's definitive evidence that they've done this, and you don't have to believe me, and I'm asking you not to. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. For crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. Just search up dazole research worldwide.
Got on from animal trials to human trials. So I got a few links. I think it was 10 links of human trials, and I emailed Dr. Lee. Nice email. "Hi, doctor, can you please look at these trials that are going on around the world using dazole to fight cancer? I don't want you thinking I'm some crazy madman who's just taking drugs that aren't used for cancer. These are now getting used for cancer. Can you please have a look at these drugs?" 24 hours later, he emails me back. "Hi, Shane." Still got the email from me. "Hi, Shane. Thanks for your email. I spent the last 24 hours researching these drugs. I've got to say they look very, very promising. But also I have to say, until we get the trial results in 10 years' time, I can't say these drugs have worked for you, Shane."
Until we have a trial period or trial results in a 10-year period of time, they can't say anything. Again, it sounds like a non-disclosure agreement to allow clinical trials and medical trials to occur so they can be sure. You know, it's kind of like a insurance. It's part of the insurance scheme. It's already there.
But as I told you in the office, if you feel they have helped and they've worked, you carry on taking them. Which I thought was a reasonable response to when I thought about it. I thought, well, he's not can't tell me they've worked for me, can he? Because he's a doctor, but also he's not telling me not to take them. So, but fair enough. Left it at that anyway. That was, I said, a long time ago now. So going back to work, everything's good. Didn't go for a checkup for 4 or 5 years. Went back a few years ago. Cancer all gone. Still all gone now. I did go anonymous when all this happened. I wrote a blog straight away what I was doing and what happened, and I went anonymous. Didn't want anyone to know who it was, because one of the main reasons was I thought if you got a cure for cancer, people that be the pharmaceutical companies, people that will lose millions of pounds if they had a cure for cancer tomorrow. And if you're pushing a cure and it is a cure, they're definitely never getting rid of you. Nothing. If you're costing them billions of pounds. So I didn't want to risk that. I didn't want the attention.
So it's basically just doing it on your own, under the cover of your own health choices, of course, and just putting it out silently in a manner, speaking about your firsthand experiences to small groups of people. I don't know how many subs this guy's got. This is Shane Clark. He got 2.51 thousand subs. This was put out a month ago. Shane Clark beating cancer using mebendazole worming tablets.
And I also thought, if I'm shouting from the rooftops, I've cured cancer, and then I end up getting cancer and dying, my mind, my thoughts are, I'll look at cancer. I know I'm dead, but I'll look at cancer. So I didn't want to push it. I didn't want to put my name to it anyway. So I went anonymous, wrote a blog. People contact me from all over the world. I replied to plenty of emails about the drug, 5-6 years, anonymous. And then a gentleman called Joe Tippins. Now, if you go on YouTube and you put Joe Tippins in.
Joe Tippins, the one we spoke about that did the fenbendazole, the veterinary worming tablets for dogs and cats and such.
It's a 70-year-old gentleman in America who used a drug called fenbendazole in 2017. He had brain cancer and he used fenbendazole, not membendazole, fenbendazole. Now, fenbendazole,
brain cancer. It had already reached his brain, or started in his brain.
Is a horse worming drug, animal worming drug using animals. Now, it's the same drug as membendazole. It's just got one oxygen molecule difference to sell to animals.
One oxygen molecule difference than the other. This is the difference in the albendazole as well. There's just like 1 or 2 molecular differences.
Same drug, exactly same, no difference except one oxygen molecule. But you can't buy membendazole in America. You can get membendazole here, and you can't get fenbendazole over the counter. So that's a bit strange anyway. So Joe Tippins now has gone on, in 2017, he's gone on a lot of news channels. He's written books saying he's cured his brain cancer. And he's pushed a drug, and he's out there now. Everyone knows about this drug now. Fenbendazole beating cancer. If you go online now, put Google membendazole, it'll come up. Fights cancer. Joe Rogan on his podcast mentioned it maybe 8 months ago. He mentioned it. So he's cured cancer. He's still well. He's 7 years now. He's been in remission. Brilliant. Really happy for the gentleman. Over the moon. Couldn't be any happier. Oh, and another reason being is it just makes my story seem more plausible. Another gentleman has done it. Now, he's got a blog online. If you go online, Joe Tippins, you'll see his blog. You can see it go on his website. He's got plenty of people on there now have put their stories up. They've also used fenbendazole to cure cancer, which is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So this is why I'm doing this video now, just to let you know, it was 12 years ago I took the drug. I'm still cancer-free. I'm still healthy. I have no side effects. Joe Tippins is healthy. He's having no side effects. I think he still takes the drug. I don't take the drug anymore. I haven't taken the drug for a long time. Just stay healthy. So this is why I'm doing this, so people can see my story.
Hasn't taken the drug for a long time. Just stay healthy. That's the importance of them cell salts and stuff I've been talking about. And as we know, it's a matter of knowing what your body is going through, being able to read it through its symptoms and stuff, and being able to take specific cell salts to put that back in balance. You don't literally have to take each cell salt every day, as long as you've got a good qualifying diet. You use those cell salts as a supplement in case you run across symptoms, that you can then put that. That's why it's important to understand what each of those cell salts does and how to read those symptoms accordingly. So again, it's a matter of not having to use it as a lifetime regimen, but know how to incorporate when you need it by reading your body, by letting you, by understanding your body. Know thyself, heal thyself.
Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments below. Please share this video. If it helps someone, give some hope if you've got cancer.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you think, John?
I think a lot of cancer research focused on chemo and, you know, surgery and other drugs in the last 70, 80 years, not natural cures, because they can't make money off of that, you know.
Absolutely, and that's why it's nice to have this converge together from the veterinary industry. I'm sure somebody came across it somehow, but realizing that none of the dogs that were taking those dewormers were getting cancer or something. I'm not sure, but somewhere along the line, somebody with the thought in mind was able to make some connections, and you know, that's the natural instinct and intuitiveness that I'm always talking about. We have to understand how to observe nature and see what other creatures are doing and responding to in that environment. So when we create things like this and start giving them to our animals and pets, we need to keep an eye on them and see those differences as well. It's nice to see that the veterinary industry and human medical industry has a tie together in showing that all creatures are of a similar existence of some sort. And like I said, a lot of these cell salts and stuff we can get through the fruits and veggies. So it even encompasses the things that we eat that are not of the flesh. The next thing I've got, I don't know where that came from. There we go. Like I said, you've got Fenben is what they call it, 444 milligram, 120 count purity, 99%. This doesn't have any kind of fillers or anything like that. So this is going to be a little bit more expensive than what the guy mentioned down in the chat earlier, $20 USD. Yes, I agree you can get that. Those are for like the 22 milligram 50 count bottles, and they have maybe a 70% purity with all kinds of fillers. This one here, a little bit more potent as its purity goes, and it says contains only pure fenbendazole, no fillers. Our products contain no fillers, with the only ingredient being pure fenbendazole, and the capsule shells being plant-based and vegan. So viable still. Like I said, fenbendazole was the first one. That's what he mentioned in there. Was menbendazole for him, and then Joe Tippin with fenbendazole. And like I said, we're going to read with albendazole here in a bit. And so you just look it up, Fenben, and it'll tell you all about it. Got a whole page on Wikipedia, National Institutes of Health. Fenbendazole acts as a moderate microtubule destabilizing agent and causes cancer cell death by modulating multiple cellular pathways. This is from the National Institute of Health. This is not an opinion. This is a statement in the public domain. And it says, fenbendazole acts as a moderate microtubule destabilizing agent and causes cancer and cell death by modulating multiple cellular pathways. So the cancer cells have these things called microtubules, and it disrupts them, it destabilizes them so they can't take in sugar.
Well, that's the killer, the glucose.
Yep. And I forgot to change my page. Fenbendazole on Wikipedia. Just put in Fenben. and all kinds of stuff comes up, and it says, what does fenbendazole do to humans? Inhibit cancer cell growth. This again is from healthline.com. While fenbendazole was initially formulated for veterinary use, preliminary research, this is what the guy was talking about, 10 years to get results, suggests that fenbendazole may inhibit cancer cell growth and induce cancer cell death through various mechanisms, destabilizing agents, such as disruption of microtubule formation and inhibition of glucose uptake. Glucose, that's sugar. Blocks the cancer cells from feeding on sugar. So you can still have sugar in your body, but the cancer cells can't. It blocks those microtubular things by destabilizing them. It has an attack directive, not against the actual cells, but anything foreign or corrupt. Things would destabilize cells. It attacks those cells that are destabilized and then destroys them. How quickly leaving the body with good cellular instructions throughout the rest of the body. How quickly does fenbendazole work for cancer? That's a direct question saying it works for cancer. So let's read that. We first observed that treatment of fenbendazole to colon cancer cells induced apoptosis within 24 hours, which was extended for a long term. We revealed that fenbendazole markedly suppressed proliferation rate via cell cycle arrest. It's stopping the cell cycles. It's arresting them. So let's go to the next one. This is where we're going to talk about albendazole. And I put a question, how does albendazole interact with sugar? National Health Institute. Again, I remind you of the banner running across the bottom. For educational purposes, our continuing education activity here is to read again in the public domain by the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information, National Institute on Health. Albendazole is an FDA-approved medication for treating a variety of parasitic worm infections. Albendazole is an antihelminthic medication with numerous indications such as cystic hydatid disease of the liver, lung, and peritoneum resulting from the larval form of the dog tapeworm. Even though they call it a dog tapeworm, does not mean that only dogs can get it. Oops, why are we not sharing? What happened here? My apologies, folks. I'll get better at this. Echinococcal granulosus is the name, evidently. Albendazole also has approval for treating parenchymal neurocysticercosis, secondary to active lesions caused by infection with larval forms of the pork tapeworm Tinea solium. This activity will discuss the role of interprofessional team in the use of this medication. Let's see here. Albendazole has also been the topic of recent investigations as a potential anti-cancer agent due to its limited toxicity to normal cells, but high toxicity to both tumor and parasitic cells. So what it's doing, again, like I said, it's got a directive in there somewhere to search out the cells that are not healthy. to remove them, to deconstruct them and remove them from the body. Yes. Greetings, Peaceful Journey. Absolutely correct. Mushrooms, all kinds of different things in nature provide a remedial intercourse of preventive maintenance. So you don't have to worry about this stuff so much. So when we learn about that dietary process and the roots of where we're going to get all those salts and things that keep the body cells healthy, the better we'll be able to create our own menus accordingly, be able to adjust them accordingly. Recent studies have created nano formulations of albendazole and conjugated the drug to nano carriers to improve solubility and increase drug delivery to tumor cells. Albendazole and mebendazole have demonstrated anti-cancer properties in vitro and in animal models. Both have demonstrated anti-cancer properties against the following solid tumor cancers: breast, head and neck, colorectal, melanoma, ovary, and prostate. There is also limited clinical data on albendazole and mebendazole anti-cancer properties. Neutropenia is a limiting side effect of prolonged high-dose albendazole pharmacopathy. This is why I told you it's not something that you necessarily have to institute on a daily basis, like a very regular schedule, but rather just know the symptoms so you can use it when needed. Because prolonged high-dose albendazole and others evidently cause issues with the liver. Mebendazole appears less likely to cause neutropenia. Keller et al. All others conducted double-blind, randomized, controlled trials of the effectiveness of albendazole ivermectin versus albendazole placebo in the treatment. Now, the ivermectin is the liquid form. Okay. The patient's ages 6 to 60. Pay attention, there's no dog out there that lives to be 60 years of age. We're from Lao People's Democratic Republic, Laos, and Tanzania, Pemba Island. In Laos, 466 patients received the combination of albendazole ivermectin, and 413 patients received albendazole placebo treatment. In Tanzania, 558 patients received the combination of ivermectin, and 515 patients received the placebo treatment. Patients were assessed at 6 months and 12-month post-treatment. A minimum of 1 stool specimen was collected from each patient who underwent C.O.W.A.R.D.S assessment, and Helminth egg reduction rates, reinfection rates, and cure rates were determined. Patients who were Helminth positive after 6 months received additional treatment. The Helminth egg reduction rates in patients from Laos at 6 months were 99 versus 79.6% in albendazole ivermectin versus albendazole placebo. So ivermectin had 99% and the placebo had 79.6%. The cure rates were 68.8 versus 13.4. The Helminth egg reduction rates in patients from Tanzania at 6 months were 89 versus 21.2. The cure rate was 17.8 versus 1.4. The reinfection rate was 10% in Laos and 100% in Tanzania at 12 months for albendazole placebo cohort. They concluded that albendazole ivermectin treatment was superior to the placebo treatment regarding trichuria, egg reduction rates, reinfection rates, and cure rates. I would imagine you could probably carry those kind of figures over to to the realization of cancer. Albendazole is contraindicated in patients with a history of hypersensitivity to albendazole, benzimidols, or any component of the formulation. So there are certain people that don't handle the dazoles very well. Clinicians should use the drug with caution in patients with active liver disease or dysfunction because the liver metabolizes the drug via the CYP450 system, whatever that is. Also, care is in order if the patient has biliary obstruction, as the drug gets significantly excreted in bile. So your bile excretes it once it's done its job, and acts as a carrier to carry out the things that it's destroyed. What do you think so far, John? Is this making sense?
That's a pretty high rate. I'm impressed. I mean, you don't see those numbers anywhere.
And I'm wondering, like I said, other things that I'm using in my regime, like the colloidal silver, the DMSO, the hydrogen peroxide lung infusions, the apricot kernel kernel extract, various different things, chaga mushroom, all these different things. Do they independently have these kind of effects? Or, like I said, I don't really want to do the fenbendazole every damn day the rest of my life, but I'm sure there are other components in our diets that we can use to help inhibit these various different cancer growths, worms and such like that, bacteria, viruses. And again, it all goes back to, like I was saying, the cell salts in the body, with our waters being alchemical, or our bodies being alchemical and electrical in that sense. The frequencies, everything. It's a matter of learning the critical structures that were built as already, and not letting them being destroyed, but not paying attention to them. That was my whole problem. I didn't pay attention to my diet because I was distracted by everything else in my life, took upon the convenience of processed foods, and of course the cigarettes didn't help. Finding out that the pyrines that they put in tobacco is what actually makes them addictive, I guess, according to my research, just my opinion or belief upon my research so far, as well as sugar is added to tobacco, again, according to my research. And when you burn sugar while you're inhaling it, it seriously causes problems with your lungs. So again, that sugar is a problem when it relates to cancer in any form, and they know this. And so, it might be, part of that experiment to find out what does cause cancer and how to cure it.
Yeah, when the cells
Cigarette.
multiply, they secrete acid, and that acid goes right through the liver, which then creates glucose, and that fuels more cancer. It also disrupts the they call it structured water heat.
Yep,
disrupts the charge.
H3O2 and H2O.
Yeah, and that disrupts the charge of around the cells.
Yeah, it has to do with the oxidation and apophagy, or whatever it's called. The actual, like I say, with magnesium, you want to make sure you take folic acid with it because it's a activator. And that's the same thing with your liver. Your liver has certain activators to get rid of the acids. A very good point. The next one is the albendazole as an antihelminthic drug in benzimidazole group, according to the BCS Biopharmaceutics classification system, with low solubility and high permeability. In other words, it takes very little to dissolve, and the body readily accepts it. Okay? Albendazole is a class 2 safe and effective antihelminthic drug. investigating a soluble pharmaceutical salt, albendazole. Albendazole is an effective antihelminthic drug which has an unpredictable therapeutic response due to its low solubility in biological fluids that limits its oral absorption. That's why I said that one, the ivermectin, it's a liquid. It's just easier to give it to you in a liquid. In an attempt to improve solubility, albendazole hydrochloride, a soluble pharmaceutical salt, was obtained and characterized by X-ray diffraction together with magic angle spinning solid state nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. That's what this is. Showing you the crystalline form as a solid state. They add something that creates it, that allows it to have a solid state. Solid crystal versus liquid crystal. Again, sometimes your synthetics, they're not solid crystals and they're not liquid crystals. They're synthetics. Was obtained and characterized by X-ray, Raman and Fourier transform infrared spectroscopies, thermal analysis, energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, and scanning electron microscopy. These studies revealed that the crystalline habit, in other words, the character trait of the crystalline character trait of albendazole hydrochloride is different from that of the albendazole solid forms previously reported. The full structure was elucidated by performing single crystal X-ray diffraction. The characterization studies showed the participation of the carbamate moiety in the salt formation. In addition, the solubility study showed a significant increase in the solubility with respect to forms 1 and 2 of albendazole. In conclusion, our results indicate that albendazole hydrochloride can be an auspicious salt to be used as a new product in an attempt to counteract unfavorable pharmaceutical properties. Interesting. So it's like that magnesium and folic binders. The salt is allowing it to be carried into your body, maybe. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. The next one I've got, this is another one. It's rather long, but we're just going to read a couple parts here. It's the antihelminthic drugs as emerging immune modulators in cancer. And again, this is from the National Library of Medicine, from the National Health Institute, through the National Center for Biotechnology Information. They're putting it out for us to observe. I'm hoping I'm interpreting it correctly and in voicing my freedom of expression, and I hope everybody else understands their right to know. Despite recent advances in treatment approaches, cancer is still one of the leading causes of death worldwide. Restoration of tumor immune surveillance represents a valid strategy to overcome the acquired resistance and cytotoxicity of conventional therapies in oncology and immunotherapeutic drugs, such as immune checkpoint inhibitors and immunogenic cell death inducers. Cell death inducers, that's what we're dealing with, and has substantially progressed the treatment of several malignancies and improved the clinical management of advanced disease. So again, it's the cell death inducers that are seeking out the bad cells, not the good ones. The ones that are already out of shape and not in conformity with the rules of the body. Unfortunately, because of tumor intrinsic and or extrinsic mechanisms for escaping immune surveillance, only a fraction of patients clinically respond to and benefit from cancer immunotherapy. Accumulating evidence derived from studies of drug repositioning, that is, the strategy to identify new uses for approved or investigational drugs that are outside the scope of the original medical indication. In other words, like I said, they're using them. They originally came in the scope of deworming, and now they're using them outside of the scope of the original medical indication of worms and applying them for cancers. Has suggested that some antihelminthic drugs, in addition to their anti-neoplastic effects, assert important immunomodulatory actions on specific subsets of immune cell and related pathways. In this review, we report and discuss current knowledge on the impact of antihelminthic drugs on host immunity and their potential implication in cancer immunotherapy. And I'm just going to read this. Where is it? Currently, solid cancer therapy is focused on surgical removal. That's what that guy was talking about. They were wanting to take out part of his hip and his pelvis bone to get at it. Although this option is usually only available at the early stages of cancer development. In later stages, when metastases are detected, in other words, it starts spreading to other parts of the body and starts eating into your bones and stuff, chemotherapy is the preferred treatment. Unfortunately, a significant number of patients can experience resistance to cancer drugs because they're synthetic. They go in and they attack not just the bad cells, but every cell in your body, and with an instruction to rebuild itself, not to carry out the bad stuff only. So your body takes on this stem cell pathway and gets an amped up urge to rebuild through the stem cells and depletes its body supply of stem cells. Either at the beginning or during the course of treatment, which eventually results in therapy failure. These issues require other therapeutic options and are forcing researchers to seek new chemicals. Again, in their seeking chemicals, understand that they get them from the very natural processes that we already have at hand. Okay? This is through our diet. However, the development of new therapeutics has become increasingly difficult for pharmaceutical companies because they're outside the scope of their practice. In fact, classical drug discovery requires target identification and validation, and they can't target identification and validation outside of the scope of their research, which means you have to go to them. If you're doing it outside of their scope and they don't know it, they don't have any reach to it. That's the importance of this guy going to the doctor and in mid-stride finding out chemotherapy and radiation wasn't working. He sought new sources, but kept going to that doctor. That's how they get the information, is us. Evaluation of compound efficacy in pharmacology in vitro and in vivo, and analysis of toxicology, specificity, and potential drug interactions. This means that the process of selling a new drug on the market is costly and time-consuming, taking around 10 to 15 years to complete, because they have to be able to observe that natural process first, be able to create a synthetic, and then say, this works like the natural process. It doesn't. The extent of these challenges, again, that's just my opinion. The extent of these challenges is revealed in an overall failure rate in drug development of more than 96%, failure rate of 90% during clinical development, and in the increasingly reduced number of new therapeutics approved by drug regulatory authorities. Because oftentimes we find that they can't bind things in their synthetics because the natural elements don't allow for such insane fictional bindings. Given these drawbacks, alternative drug discovery approaches should be employed to make drug research and development less time-consuming and financially demanding. So again, the premise here is that they're developing drugs. They have to put an additive to what was already given to create something different that they can patent and then sell. That's the problem. You're trying to add on to something that is already there in a preventative measure as it is. When you add on to it, you're the one at a loss. Unless, of course, you have all these patients coming to you screaming just like they scream for a king, they scream for a doctor. It's sad. One such approach is drug repositioning, also known as drug repurposing. That is the strategy to identify new uses for approved or investigational drugs that are outside the scope of the original medical indication, like I said earlier. They're going to repurpose it for a different effect, for a different cause, a different disease, because it may have a better result, better effect. The next one and last one we got is the autophagy. This is what I was talking about, the autophagy activator drugs. A new opportunity in neuroprotection from misfolded protein toxicity. This is the autophagy. This is the magnesium with the folic acid as an activator. The aim of this review is to critically analyze promises and limitations of pharmacological inducers of autophagy against protein misfolding associated neurodegeneration. This is the degeneration of your cells because there's something wrong and it's not acting correctly. And that, of course, would be because the diet's wrong. Again, in my opinion. Effective therapies against neurodegenerative disorders can be developed by regulating the self-defense equipment of neurons, such as autophagy, through the degradation and recycling of the intracellular content. Autophagy promotes neuron survival in conditions of trophic factor deprivation, oxidative stress, mitochondrial and lysosomal damage, or accumulation of misfolded proteins. Misfolded proteins, oxidative stress, mitochondrial and lysosomal damage. These are all things that we go through as a natural being, and our body will tell us those things. We may not naturally know it, but through our observances, we can figure it out. That's why it's important to observe nature for what she is and quit paying attention to all this fictional medicine practice. Again, just my opinion. Autophagy involves the activation of self-digestive pathways, which is different for dynamics or degraded material, which are the macro, micro, and chaperone-mediated autophagy, mitophagy, lysophagy, and agrophagy. So it's the autophagy involves the activation of self-digestive pathways. That's that intracellular recycling. All neurodegenerative disorders share common pathogenic mechanisms, including the impairment of autophagic flux, which causes the inability to remove the neurotoxic oligomers of misfolded proteins. Pharmacological activation of autophagy is typically achieved by blocking the kinase activity of mammalian target of rapamycin enzymatic complex 1, removing its autophagy suppressor activity observed under physiological conditions. Acting in this way, rapamycin provided the first proof of principle that pharmacological autophagy enhancement can induce neuroprotection through the facilitation of oligomers clearance. In other words, neurotoxic oligomers of misfolded proteins. Those are the things that no longer fit. They're out of shape. So instead of having a nice round cell, those folded proteins cause a bumpy cell. That's a bad cell. It doesn't act and attach properly with what it's supposed to. So it's going to have, let's see here, a clearance of it. It's the albendazole that's going to go in, deconstruct it, and clear it out. It's going to recognize it as a bad cell, tear it apart, and remove it. That's my comprehension of what we're reading here today. The demand for effective disease-modifying strategies against neurodegenerative disorders is currently stimulating the development of a wide number of novel molecules, as well as the reevaluation of old drugs for their pro-autophagic potential. In other words, their ability to use their natural instructions that they've already been created to go in and do a specific job. It's like the mushrooms. There are certain mushrooms that it seems their specific job is to open up certain pathways in the pineal gland for excited thought and conception of what we observe in the darkness, in our imagination. It opens a door of manifestation, it seems. Gives us these wild and crazy ideas that we would have never thought of before. What do you think, John? Am I off? Am I discerning that right? Do you have any questions? Anybody?
No, I'll just say that the whole system started going in reverse in 1914 when the RX symbol came in. I don't know if you know what that is. There's two poisonous snakes wrapped around a staff, and the R means retrograde. So they're telling you that they're switching the natural system that we had before that. They're going to throw it in reverse. So that's a little history for you.
Absolutely. And they're using you as an investment. Look at your prescription. Next time you go to the store and you get a prescription, they put it in that bag and they put that receipt on there and they fold it over and they staple it shut for you, hand it to you. Look at the top of that paperwork that they staple to your medication bag, and you'll see that they use the first four letters of your last name in all uppercase in a yellow highlighted square or block. And before we continue on, I will remind everybody once again, the banner scrolling across the bottom, fair use. All clips are used for fair use commentary, criticism, and educational purposes. So please, like I said, I invite criticism. If I'm wrong, then I admit that I'm wrong. But I'm only posing an opinion here. And if you have an opposition or an opposing dynamic that would clarify things more clearly, please do so. All right. Anything else you got, John?
Well, I'm good. Good show.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the meantime, again, you guys know me. I'm only trying to put out and express what I'm observing through my interpretation. And I think my interpretations are not too far off anyway. They may be a little off, but I don't think they're too far off. And in that, I'm certainly no medical professional. I'm certainly no legal professional. I'm certainly no legal or no profession of anything but of the truth. And in that, again, if I'm wrong and you find something more clarifying or more exact or can pinpoint where I'm definitely wrong in something, please do so. And in the meantime, you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. Let's say I don't care if you don't love me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. We'll see you next time. Bye now.